I never thought a regular Thursday morning would end with my 82-year-old grandfather being kicked out of his own grocery store. One minute he was picking out a cantaloupe, the next minute some HOA Karen was waving a clipboard in his face, yelling that he'd been banned from the premises. She had no idea who he was or who I was, but she was about to find out. My name's Nathan Brennan. My family owns Riverside Market, a small grocery store in the middle of Pine Valley. My grandpa Stanley spent 40 years building that place from the ground up. After he retired, shopping there every Thursday became his little ritual. He'd stroll through the aisles, chat with employees, and treat the produce section like a sacred space. Everyone loved him. Everyone except Patricia Holloway. Patricia was the self-appointed queen of the Pine Valley HOA. She didn't just run the board, she ran her mouth, her clipboard, in the entire neighborhood like she was the sheriff of suburbia. That morning her voice sliced through the market like a fire alarm. "You've been banned from this establishment, Mr. Brennan." Effective immediately. I looked up from the dairy aisle and froze. There she was, standing 3 feet from my grandfather, her badge swinging from a lanyard that probably cost more than his weekly groceries. Grandpa blinked behind his glasses, holding the cantaloupe like it might explain what was happening. "Excuse me?" he asked, polite as ever. Patricia tapped her clipboard. "You've repeatedly violated community commerce standards, lingering in produce, excessive sampling, causing inefficiency." The entire store went silent. My grandfather, who'd spent his life feeding this community, was being scolded like a misbehaving child. When he slowly started toward the door, humiliated, something in me snapped. I stepped out from behind the yogurt display. "Patricia," I said evenly, "you just banned the owner's grandfather from his own store." Her head whipped around. For a second she looked like a robot short-circuiting. "Nathan, I didn't realize you were here." "Oh, I'm here," I said, helping Grandpa back inside. "And you're leaving." But Patricia wasn't the type to retreat. She straightened her jacket and said, "The Pine Valley HOA has authority over all commercial activities within our boundaries. Your grandfather's conduct violates our standards." I almost laughed. "Standards, Patricia? This isn't a lemonade stand. This is private property. The HOA charter grants us oversight of any activity impacting neighborhood character," she snapped. "You're quoting bylaws in a grocery store," I said. "Do you even hear yourself?" She glared, clutching that clipboard like it was a weapon. People around us started whispering. I could feel the heat rising in my chest. For years she'd bossed around our neighbors, issuing warnings about unapproved flower pots, mailbox colors, kids' bikes left on driveways. But now she was coming after my family. Later I found out this wasn't some one-off tantrum. Patricia had been shadowing my grandfather for weeks, literally following him around with her clipboard, timing how long he spent picking apples, even writing subject lingered 17 minutes in produce. She'd actually filed a formal warning because he talked to a cashier for 4 minutes about her grandkids. That morning I realized this woman wasn't just nosy, she was obsessed. I called my sister Rachel, the co-owner. She stormed out of the back office 10 minutes later, eyes blazing. "Let me get this straight," she said. "You've been stalking our 82-year-old grandfather with a clipboard." "I've been monitoring compliance," Patricia said, chin high. Rachel didn't even blink. "Perfect. Then you'll love hearing from our attorney. Elder harassment's a legal thing, you know." A few customers started clapping quietly. Others shook their heads at Patricia. That only made her dig in deeper. "This is favoritism," she shouted. "The HOA exists to ensure fairness." "Fairness," Rachel barked. "Like when you fined the Hendersons because their grandkids left their bikes out for 20 minutes? Or when you ticketed Mr. Kim because his rose bushes were 2 inches too tall?" I put a hand on Rachel's shoulder before she could keep going. My heart was pounding. I didn't like scenes. I didn't like conflict. And yet here we were defending our grandfather in front of half the town because one woman's ego couldn't handle being ignored. For a moment I felt this wave of exhaustion hit me. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was better to just apologize, smooth things over, and move on. It wasn't worth a lawsuit or a neighborhood feud. Then I looked at Grandpa. He was standing there, small but steady, his hands trembling slightly on the cart handle. And he smiled at me like he always did when I was a kid messing up in the stockroom. That quiet, patient smile that said, "Do the right thing, even when it's hard." No, this wasn't about pride. This was about respect. I turned to Patricia. "You're done here. You're banned from Riverside Market." "You can't do that," she shrieked. "I have rights as a customer." "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "our lease with Pine Valley Development gives us the right to refuse service to anyone disrupting business operations. Harassing elderly customers definitely qualifies." Rachel folded her arms. "This isn't discrimination, Patricia. It's consequence." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then she spun on her heel and marched out, declaring she'd call an emergency HOA meeting to address this gross violation of community partnership standards. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The next day, flyers went out. Emergency HOA meeting. Topic: commercial entity. Overreach in residential zones. I couldn't believe it. She was doubling down. When the meeting started, the community center was packed. Patricia stood at the front, her PowerPoint projected behind her. The title slide read, "The Brennan Family Conflict of Interest." Her presentation was 20 slides of pure delusion. Grainy security footage of Grandpa picking tomatoes, bullet points about inefficient traffic flow. People started whispering, snickering. Then Helen Patterson, the HOA treasurer, raised her hand. "Patricia," she said, "that's Mr. Stanley you're talking about. The man who helped my daughter get her first job. Are you seriously asking us to ban him from his own store?" Patricia's smile faltered. "This isn't personal, Helen. It's about standards." "Standards," another board member, James, shot back. "You followed an old man around with a clipboard. That's creepy, Patricia." The room erupted. Within minutes, the board voted unanimously to throw out her so-called community commerce guidelines. They even drafted an apology letter to our family. Patricia sat there, frozen cheeks, red fingers gripping the table like it might keep her from sinking. And then came the cherry on top. A few days later, Janet Morrison, the owner of a local real estate firm, walked into the market. She also happened to be Patricia's boss. "I saw everything that day," Janet said quietly. "I can't have someone who bullies senior citizens representing my company." By the end of the week, Patricia was on administrative leave. But instead of gloating, we decided to turn the mess into something good. Rachel came up with Stanley Brennan Appreciation Week. We put Grandpa's favorite products on sale, made a little photo wall of his years at the store, even played old photos of him teaching us to stack fruit. Customers flooded in. They shared stories, hugs, memories. It was beautiful. And of course, local news got wind of it. The headline, "HOA President Tries to Ban Elderly Man from His Own Family Business." The story went viral. Patricia Holloway became a meme, her name shorthand for HOA tyranny. The next HOA meeting was a circus. Cameras, reporters, residents standing shoulder to shoulder. The main agenda item: vote of no confidence, President Patricia Holloway. I stood in the back, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. One by one, neighbors stepped up to the microphone. Some told stories about Patricia fining them for lawn ornaments, others about her late-night inspections. Every word chipped away at her authority. When the votes were counted, the result wasn't even close, 47-3. Only Patricia and her two loyal minions stood against the room. Her face went pale. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Her clipboard slipped from her hands, clattering onto the floor. "This is all because of that old man," she shouted. "They turned everyone against me." Helen, the treasurer, stood up slowly. "No, Patricia. You did that yourself when you decided your fake rules mattered more than basic decency." The room fell silent. Cameras flashed. Patricia stormed out, clutching a cardboard box full of HOA papers, muttering something about lawsuits that would never happen. By the next morning, her for sale sign was up in front of her house. Ironically, she placed it 2 inches too close to the sidewalk, and the new HOA board sent her a violation notice. Poetic justice. Her downfall came fast after that. Without her job, she couldn't afford the mortgage. She sold her house $30,000 below asking. The closing attorney, one of our regular customers, told me later what happened in that room. Patricia sat across from him, signing the last papers with shaking hands. He smiled gently and said, "Mr. Stanley asked me to pass along a message." He said, "No hard feelings." That was it. That was the moment it all came crashing down. Patricia burst into tears, ran out of the office, and left behind the one thing: she never went anywhere without her precious clipboard. I still see it sometimes, tucked away in the office storage room. a reminder of how far arrogance can fall. People ask me if I ever felt bad for her. Honestly, a little. But I also know she wrote her own ending one petty citation at a time. And as for Grandpa, he still shops every Thursday morning, humming down the produce aisle, testing every cantaloupe he wants. Nobody dares to stop him anymore. Because if there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's this: power doesn't make you important. How you treat people does.